I always recommend brands look at retail when they're on the way up. If you're doing at bare minimum 2 million a year annually in revenue, that's probably the very smallest you would be. Really, once you're up to like 5, you probably have enough bandwidth, margin, and wherewithal, operational capacity to really start exploring retail. And it's a tough thing to balance because when you're growing rapidly online, you want to keep doubling down on those gains, right? You don't want to just take your foot off the gas. What I like to recommend is wade into the water slowly by using a lot of different techniques. But I would say start before you think you're ready.
Welcome, everybody. I've got Michael Esposito today. Michael is an expert in taking brands to retail. What that means is like getting them into Walmart, Target, big box stores, and even mom and pop stores. You know, there's a lot of different avenues for different brands, and Michael has navigated that over the past decade for a ton of brands. So this is the guy to listen to if you're been primarily D2C and you're looking to get into retail. We're going to unpack how to do it, what to do it, the hurdles that you're going to have to go through and how to get over those. Michael's got a great PDF of step-by-step guide that he's going to share with us after. So this is going to be value packed. Super excited to have Michael on board. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to talk to you guys. You know, I think a lot of D2C operators, a lot of Amazon operators have kind of realized that online is the place to grow a product, grow a brand. But if you want to reach critical mass, escape velocity, you got to be everywhere. You got to be where the customers are. And 80% of retail or 80% of sales still occur in stores. So you have a huge addressable market, and you can go in with a lot of confidence if you've really proven your product, and you can convince buyers to take you on because you have all this social proof and track record and things like that. So I think a lot of operators are just uncertain. They don't know how it works. They're afraid of it, the costs. There's some myths out there about margins and things like that. So I just want to clear all that up and give everyone sort of the A to Z how to do it today.
Yeah, I love that. So let's unpack that. So why and when should I start looking at a retail relationship and adding that into my initiatives for the year?
Yeah, I would say looking at the when is really when you're ready, which is broad, but what ready can mean is you have some proven products, usually one, maybe some variations. I'd say if you're doing at bare minimum 2 million a year annually in revenue, that's probably the very smallest you would be. Really, once you're up to like 5, you probably have enough bandwidth, margin, and wherewithal, operational capacity to really start exploring retail. I always recommend brands look at retail when they're on the way up. And it's a tough thing to balance because when you're growing rapidly online, you want to keep doubling down on those gains, right? You don't want to just take your foot off the gas. But momentum is really powerful for getting into retail. So what I like to recommend is brands kind of researching retail, understanding their viability, and working their way into it incrementally. They don't have to go and spend $1 million in capital expense and hiring people and say this is a retail push. You can kind of wade into the water slowly by using a lot of different techniques. But I would say start before you think you're ready, before you think you have capacity, because what often happens is a brand will plateau. This occurs on Amazon a lot. You kind of plateau, you start losing margin to competitors and knockoffs and Amazons, you know, them being Amazon. Then you want to go to retail, but now your momentum's going the other way. So your growth story doesn't look as good and you're fighting off demons. So and the sales cycle takes years. So you kind of want to start early. But yeah, the why to do it is growth. Growth and ultimately stability. You are hedging against Google and Amazon when you move off of online into stores. Now you're dealing with Walmart, right? But you have a hedge against them that's online. You're dealing with Costco. Like the more you're spreading out, you're kind of hedging risk. You're getting sort of a different speed. Retailers are sticky. They take a long time to get into, but they can be reliable for years at a time. Whereas Amazon, you could get delisted tomorrow, right? So you can have very predictable margins. It can help your economies of scale. Planning becomes easier. And then you grow your brand. You become more notorious. Like your named search will skyrocket on Amazon when you're in Walmart. So now your cost of acquisition is going down. So now you can reinvest those savings. And plus, it's, like I said earlier, it's 80% of sales, so it's a huge addressable market. So I think it's really, if you want to become a 9-figure brand, you have to be omni-channel.
Yeah, and you made an interesting point where you're like, hey, getting in retail will also have a positive feedback loop on your Amazon, your D2C, your e-commerce presence. We've seen that with our clients, when they get into, Costco or Walmart, et cetera, Amazon sales will go up significantly. And those two really just feed each other. And that diversification, man, you really can't beat that. I mean, every day I hear horror stories of people being like, oh, I got kicked off of Amazon, or Amazon suspended my top selling product, right? And so it's like you can't and shouldn't be dependent on 1, 2, or 3 channels. More is better, I think.
Yeah, and
the future's omni-channel. You nailed it.
You can get really sophisticated with marketing too. Like you can do targeted, geographical ads. You can deploy your influencers to help launch Target, and tell Target we're going to use our influencer army to launch in your store. Then you hit it out of the park, and then you're using their marketing to promote your brand, which feeds back into your online channels. And you can get down to the zip code. You can see where your Facebook spend is affecting not only your Amazon but also your Walmart. I mean, there's a million ways to do it, but I think, yes, there's purely the brand notoriety of like name search, but also you can sort of aggregate and get all these beneficial side effects of marketing for one channel that bleed over into the others.
Yeah, you can really get into the nuts and bolts of, hey, where is or how can I impact sort of in-store purchase in an area with meta ads and basically dialing that up and down as needed. It's like you said, the two relationships are very, maybe symbiotic's not the right word, or maybe it is the right word.
Complementary, symbiotic.
Complementary.
Best buds.
Yeah, BFFs. They got the bracelets. Well, so Michael, okay, I'm sold. I'm in. I wanna launch retail. So how do I think about what kind of stores to go after? Should I target like little mom and pops, AutoZone, Walmart, Costco? There's a range there.
Yeah, that's kind of two questions. Let me take it one at a time. So, what kind of shop you should be in? There are categories where that kind of shop exists at the top of the market, like mass market, and it's mom and pops. Like those models can exist, like hardware, for instance. You have Home Depots, and then you have mom and pops, which are can be Aces and things like that. But they're both selling hardware, right? Whereas like sometimes gift can be a little tougher to get into at the highest levels, and maybe you want to be in boutiques or clothing stores, you want to be boutique or surf shops or things like that. So I would say start by obviously very fundamentally imagining, where would I go to buy my product? That's the first thing. Now you write down a few stores, and maybe there are local mom and pops that sell that kind of thing. So what you want to do is research, essentially. You want to be going with an open mind, write down these potential accounts, whether they be big or small, and then go into them. Go in there and look at, what are they selling? Are they selling your direct competitors? Are they selling adjacent products that are very complementary to yours, but they actually don't have what you sell? And could you tell a story of why they should sell it? If they are selling direct competitors, what's your differentiation? Are you cheaper? Are you more premium? Are you higher quality? Do you have some intellectual property or some function, or even just a better brand, like you're more stylish and cool, even though everything else is the same? And write that data down, put it in a spreadsheet. There are my competitors, there's 3 of them on the shelf, and they're blue, red, and green, and they cost this much, and here are the features, and here's their safety certification, and they're online as well with these reviews, and here are my reviews. And the data will tell you where the gaps are. So if you go around and everybody has the same thing as your product at the same price, and you're not differentiating in any way, don't go to retail. That's probably not going to be the right fit for you. But if you can walk in somewhere and say, hey, they have the $10 version, they have the $20 version, I'm the $15 version, and my value is great. Now you have a story. So you're kind of combining the quantitative with the qualitative. And you do that with the mom and pops, and you do that with the big retail. And the story will kind of reveal itself to you.
So it's research, it's boots on the ground research, which feels a lot different than digital research, right? Like, let's say I'm selling, an art supply, right? I might go into Michael's and actually like walk down the shelf and say like, where could I fit on this shelf? What's my value prop against these competitors? What's my pricing against these competitors? And build that argument if it exists for why I would be great on the Michaels shelf.
Yeah, I would say you have to do that. Michaels, if you talk to them, will expect you to know what's on their shelf, and so will Blix and whoever else. And yeah, that'll just educate yourself. And of course, you're going to do digital research. Like, okay, my competitor is at Michaels, and what are they like online? Are they on Michaels.com? And then how does their assortment in the store line up against their Amazon assortment? And you can kind of just see the picture, and I mean, none of this is rocket science, right? You'll start to see like, oh, here's their strategy. They sell the refills online and they sell the kits in the store. And like, maybe that strategy can work for me. You can kind of reverse engineer what they're doing, or you could find your own strategy that you think your strengths works towards, like, oh, let's sell the refills in the store and the kits online. I mean, I'm spitballing here, but yeah, that's why you get on the ground and you look at what's on the shelf.
Okay, so let's say that I've done my homework. I've got my art supply product. I went to Michaels, Blix, etc. And I've got an idea of like where I fit on the shelf and the value that I bring to Michaels. What do I do next is, kind of my next question. And then also too, like sell in, sell through, like these are terms I've heard. And I think knowing the language when reaching out to Michaels, Blix, or Walmart or whoever is important to speak their language. So can you kind of tell me those two?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is focusing on the Michaels and Blix would be considered mass retail. And when we talk about mass retail, that's like a single buyer buying from many, many doors versus the mom and pops. We'll talk about the merits of going into mom and pops in a minute, but obviously the big prize is mass retail. If you can get a couple buyers to agree, all of a sudden you can have hundreds of stores and you can have millions of dollars in sales. And by all of a sudden, I mean over the course of like a year or two. That's all of the sudden in retail. But selling in is convincing the buyer to put your products on the shelf. That's like phase one, and in some ways the easy part. You are pitching them the story, you have a price, you offer them a cost that works for them. A good rule of thumb is like 50% off of your retail cost is generally going to be the base cost for what these retailers want to pay to get your good from you. That varies by category, but Keystone pricing is the term for it. That's 50% off. Then they'll layer in these little like defective allowances and things like that. So I would kind of if you're guesstimating your margin, take like 55% off of your retail price, and can you sell it at that price in mass and make money, like 30% or better contribution margin? You'll actually find you usually can, because you're not going to have those like PPC ads. So start there. If you think that makes sense, try to talk to a buyer, and then you pitch them your vision that you came up with from your research. You say, you don't have this. Look at all your competitors. I did this research. Blix has it. You don't have it. This is how well the category does on Amazon. This is how well we do the D2C. Here's how we compare online. You're missing out in store. So you are selling in with that story. And you're also showing that you have grown, and you tell them about your revenue and that you're operationally competent and all these things like that. So they don't feel like there's a lot of risk. That's selling in. They say, yes, I would love to put you in 8 months and I'll send you a purchase order. Congratulations, you sold in. Now the hard part, sell through.
Wait, Mike, can I pause you before you do sell through?
Sure.
So on the selling in, this is interesting. You made a really interesting point. One thing that our clients have seen is that the buyers are almost always wanting to know the digital or online story, where they won't, like, if you're not on, if you're not 4.8 stars and a top seller, maybe not top seller, but like have a strong Amazon presence and a strong sell-through on Amazon, they're like, no, thank you. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, I would say it's not always no thank you, but it gets you so far ahead to have the good story. Whereas when I used to work at Thrasio, the big Amazon aggregator, and when I started working there, it was the easiest pitches of my life because we had these super dominant Amazon brands. And even that was a shift from 5 years before that, where buyers would not touch what's on Amazon. Now they know that products start on Amazon. So and D2C works well too. If you've got a really good D2C story, that's usually a stronger brand story, but still very compelling. And it's not always 4.8 stars, but 4.5 can be great if everyone else in your category has 4.4, right? It's really relative. So they know that the sales translate, that generally a good product on Amazon will sell on shelf if merchandised correctly. So you have to give them the confidence that you are the next product up. You're the up and comer, because that is a playbook you can run over and over again.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So then I know I interrupted, but you were going to lead into sell through here.
Yeah, sell through means how much are you selling once you're on the shelf, and this is the only thing that ultimately matters. Like, you could sell in and get a $500,000 purchase order and make a ton of money, and then your products don't sell and you have to take them all back and discount them and you lose all your money. You must sell on
Oh,
the
so
shelf.
they'll make you buy it back.
You'll negotiate the terms. They're all different, but basically, if your product doesn't sell, it's not going to be good for you. You might lose your shirt entirely, or you might come out making a tiny bit of money and you wasted a year of your life. So sell through is how many units am I selling? And it's usually units per store per week. That's like the metric. Some categories, it's like half a unit per store per week is great. Some categories, it's like 20. So it can really vary. And that's an average across all stores. Some stores will do like 3 times the mean, and some stores will like not sell any. But units per store per week, that's kind of the golden metric. And you must do better than what you're replacing. That's the bare minimum, because shelves are always full. So you're always replacing something that already exists. And if you're beating them, great. You're hitting the minimum performance you need to do. Your ideal is to beat all of your competitors and everyone on the shelf. So your velocity is everything. So you must merchandise correctly, which means your packaging has to be right. You have to translate everything you teach people with a PDP or your own branded site. You got to put that all in a box, which is a science and an art. And you must promote in various ways, whether through their proprietary marketing or your own ability to deploy influencers or on the ground marketing or whatever. Or if they let you do things like put up signage or get an end cap or put a merchant in the store or something, like Costco does those road shows, they have someone selling stuff in there. You want to do those things. You don't want to lose your shirt doing them, but it's okay to take a thinner margin to ensure you get momentum and become viable in the store, because if you are selling through, you will just keep that relationship forever. As long as you are continuing to bring them new products and make those products succeed, there's no reason you should lose a retail relationship unless you have a spokesperson that like goes crazy on TV or something. You should be okay. But yes, sell-in is nice, but it's ultimately the easy part. You have to sell through.
Yeah, so sell through is where we make or break, right? Like that's where the money's made, and
Yeah.
the long-term money's made. Because like you said, if okay, great, we sell through, now they're going to rebuy, expand stores. The sky becomes the limit if we can do that well.
Yeah, usually they'll test you with a few hundred stores and they'll test your sell through. And if you clear the bar, they'll go chain wide, and then the bar to clear gets a little higher. The more trust they put in you, the more they expect of you.
Yeah, this sounds a lot harder than I thought. Just in terms of like how much you have to invest and beating out everybody else on that, or maybe not everybody else on the shelf, but you got to beat out the replacement the product that you replaced on the shelf, right? So that's and I assume that product on the shelf didn't get there by being a shitty product, right? Like at one point they were the up and comer.
Yeah, they could have been great salespeople. They could have sold in great and then not succeeded. That happens. But yeah, something happened. The market shifted, or prices, whatever. There's a million things going on in the ecosystem. But I kind of want to zoom in on what you just said and go back to our previous point about independent retail. It is hard to do all this stuff because it's time consuming and meticulous. But you can kind of try it out in an easier way with your mom and pops, with independent retail. This is like the lower risk testing ground. Because if you go talk to Walmart and you bungle that conversation, or you promise them something you can't deliver, or you go in, worst case, you go in before you're ready and you don't sell through and they kick you out, you are not getting back into Walmart for like 10 years. It's better to wait. Even if you have a buyer who wants to put you in, it's better to make them wait than to go in and fail. But with mom and pop retail, you don't have that risk. You're dealing with a lot of single, discrete buyers and owners. So you don't get the scale of like suddenly getting millions of dollars, but you greatly reduce your risk. You can walk around your neighborhood and go talk to store owners and say, hey, will you put my stuff in? And they'll write you a check or go on consignment. And you can test your viability. You can like prove sell-through and realize, oh, I'm actually selling the wrong thing in the store, or my packaging. Hey, I talked to the manager and he said everybody asked me questions about the product because the packaging's not clear. And you'll make, if you want to scale and grow independence, you make very good margin because they don't have all these chargebacks and allowances and like net 90 terms and all this crap that the big retailers give you. They'll just give you a credit card and you can get some of them to buy on your Shopify wholesale site or Faire.com, or they just call you or send you an email, you send them purchase orders. It's a different system to like really scale it. But you know, you lose one account, you don't lose millions of dollars, you lose like $1,500 a year, right? So you scale in a more linear way, but your risk is reduced and your margin tends to be high. And you can really talk to buyers and get feedback. And it's as simple as, you know, you don't need all these sophisticated systems. They can call you or email you and you just put in an order in your system and send it from your warehouse to them. So that's like the lightweight way to dabble, especially if you're getting demand already on your own sites and people are like, hey, can I put this in my store? Just open up a Shopify wholesale and let people order, and you can sort of dip your toe in a extremely much less burdensome way. You don't have to invest in all this operational infrastructure to do it, and you can learn a lot very quickly.
Yeah, this goes back to what you said at the beginning, which is like you can dip your toe and scale into this. You don't have to go out and shoot for Walmart day one. And frankly, it's probably better not to.
I very much recommend not going for Walmart day one unless you are like a very experienced, like you worked at Henkel or something. Then yeah, you can probably go to Walmart day one because you know what it takes. But if you're a D2C operator and Walmart comes to you, use that, have the conversation, tell them you're not ready, go try it out in a bunch of smaller stores, then come back to them. But you'll 95% of the time you'll fail if you just go straight to Walmart.
Okay, that's good to know. That's valuable. And so speaking of going to, right, like obviously people hire sales reps for this. Tell me about that process. Like, when should I hire a sales rep? What should I expect to pay them? What's a good sales rep? What's a bad sales rep? Basically, how do I get in front of these people? What's the best way?
Yeah, there's a few reasons to get sales reps. One is just you can deploy more activity. You can deploy more people out in the sales force. And good sales reps, you can fast track getting to buyers, because buyers can be hard to discover their names. They're usually not on LinkedIn. They don't like to be found. So you can go direct for sure, but it just takes longer, especially if you don't know the world. A sales rep is usually going to charge you 5% commission on sales, usually not a retainer. Don't pay a rep or retainer unless they're doing some other big value add service for you. But yeah, they're good for their main principle is like fast tracking getting the meeting and then kind of guiding you into what does Target like, what does Walmart like, what does Tractor Supply like, whatever. Their secondary purpose and the good reps are operational support. So let's say you get into Home Depot, your reps will help you with product setup because everyone has their own proprietary system and they're complex. They make no sense. The instructions are terrible. So you will just get stuck setting up your product and making sure you don't have an issue with stickers or whatever. And good reps will help you deal with that all as part of their commission. Like you don't have to pay extra for that. So that's when you want to get reps when you just want to cover more ground or try to speed up getting the meeting to like a hard to access buyer. The distribution of reps is roughly like, I don't know, 85% are mediocre. They're good at like one or two accounts. They'll get you a meeting. They kind of don't do much unless you poke them and stay on top of them. You really have to treat them as like a sales team and like have meetings with them. 10% of reps are just like straight up crooks. Like they're terrible. They just try to exist to like absorb passively and cannibalize existing business. And then 5% are amazing and you hang on to those ones for dear life.
Wow. Okay. So that's kind of what I feel like on the sales side with most of the salespeople I've hired too.
Yeah, that might just be life. But yeah, and reps tend to be very good at a couple accounts. So what you do is you give them a very narrow scope when you're starting out. You say you can have Home Depot and Lowe's. You can have Walmart and Costco. You don't give them everything. because they'll take it and they're hoping on the off chance they'll get in because they once sold a product to Target 10 years ago. But they'll disappoint you. I would give them very targeted accounts, and if they continue to impress them, like continue to impress you, improve your, or give them more territory, right? And write your contracts in a way where you have like a 30-day out. Make sure you're putting in like non-compete, things like that. Make sure your payments for them are net sales. So if you're suffering deductions or chargebacks or returns or things like that, they're sharing in your net gain, right? So they're incentivized to make sure you are set up in the system correctly and all your shipments arrive on time and everything, and you're not negotiating like a bad freight deal or something like that. You want their incentive totally aligned with you. And yeah, hang on to the good ones. If they are, you might feel, okay, we got the meeting, we got the sale, let's fire the rep. You don't always want to do that. That 5% you're paying them for good ones, it usually pays for itself because you'll lose more than 5% on mismanaging the account. You miss a shipment, all of a sudden you don't get the payment, and it's a $5,000 chargeback. Like, there goes your 5%. So, yeah, hang on to the good ones is my advice there.
It's good advice, and definitely true, I think, across pretty much anybody you hire. Maybe I have one more question on the sales rep. So, like, where do I find them?
It's funny, sales reps are kind of in the Stone Age with like their websites for the most part. There's a couple groups that are really like modern, but most of them are just guys who have like, I've been doing this for 40 years, like with a briefcase. And I mean that both complimentary and derogatory depending on which rep you're talking to. But word of mouth, like a referral from someone you know who's in retail, that's the best way to find reps. Like, just ask people what reps they like. Obviously you can Google search and like search your favorite LLM and you'll find ones. But the kind of place where they aggregate is trade shows. So if you want like an Ace Hardware rep, you probably want to go to the Ace Hardware show, and like walk around and like just talk to people, talk to brands, ask for their reps. You'll meet people on the floor. Yeah, it's a very old school industry, very handshake. A lot of them don't even require contracts. I recommend you have them for your own safety, but people say retail is old school and relationship driven. It certainly is in some regards, and the rep world is very much true to that.
So I know where to find my reps. I have an idea of like how to spot out the good ones, how to work with them. When it comes to, my P&L, and you talked a bit about this at the beginning of sort of the Keystone rate, which I think you said is like 50% off retail. And you said, hey, this could be better. This P&L could be better than like an Amazon P&L because you're not running PPC and things like that. So kind of like walk me, what can I expect from my retail P&L? What will that look like relative to D2C or Amazon or anything?
Yeah, it's pretty standard. The dials will change up and down, but it tends to be the same dials, right? So when you're selling to the retailer, let's talk from like retailer relationship and we'll work our way back. When you're selling to the retailer, pricing is understood as a discount off of your retail price, your MSRP, which is your minimum suggested or manufacturer suggested retail price. So whatever you're going to sell it for in the store, say $20, the retailer expects some percentage off of that, usually based on category, like socks and apparel and things like that. That can be like 70% off. Consumer electronics, that might be 30% off, but your standard product, 50% off. Then they're going to have all these other things they add in. Freight, you're going to negotiate that. You might pay for it, they might pay for it, but if they're paying for it, you're going to kind of add that in as like another percentage line item to the total cost they're paying you, which they'll take out of invoices. Return allowances, that's just like a defective allowance. 2% is pretty common. Depending on the category, sometimes it can be higher, 1-2%. I've seen it as high as 5%. And then chargebacks. And there's like a marketing allowance in there too sometimes. That might be 2-5%, where they just say marketing allowance. And when they do like massive store discounts, your stuff is included. You usually can't opt out of that. So those are what the store is gonna, or the retailer is going to charge you, usually that kind of family of goods. Then maybe there's like a buy-in where you have to help discount the product you're replacing so they can clear it out. You can get in there. Those tend to be discrete one hits. I'm talking about your kind of long-term, like gross margin stuff. So on your side, you're probably gonna have a rep payment, which is 5%. Again, that's 5% of net. And you're gonna have to, process at your 3PL. So you just want to have a percentage of that. Just go down to the unit level. Like, what's it going to take our 3PL to pack a couple pallets and send them to Walmart? So you add all those up, and that tends to be your gross margin. And then you obviously work in any marketing spend or like one-time markdowns or anything from the retailer, and that'll get you where you're at. You want to try to land around 30%. 25 is decent, but 30 and up, you have very healthy margin for the most part of your sort of long-term consistent contribution margin. And yeah, that's tends to be steady, right? You can rely on that. If there are costs that are splashy a couple times a year, you can expect those. But they can't go just change your price on you or change the deal. They can, every year you'll revisit, and the retailers will probably try to claw a little more back from you. But it's not like Amazon where they're like, guess what? Every freight is another half a point today. Enjoy. Like, retailers can't do that. So because it's a slow burn to get in, it takes a long time, but the reward is it's steadier and more reliable, and you can very, very reliably forecast a year out. Especially if you've been working with them a while and you already know your sales velocity, you can really get down on your numbers and use that to, order product more strategically for better costs. You can use it for financing, if you need to like think about your cash flow and things like that. That's where it comes in handy. But these are all the components that are going to come in your retail 3PL, and all these percentages are a bit of a sliding scale.
So if like you said, we're looking at, roughly 50% off of MSRP as our price to retailer. Then there's going to be a few add-ins like returns, marketing allowance, chargebacks, and then the rep payment, and then the freight. And you're saying like end of day, I'm probably running about like a 30% contribution margin, and that would be considered standard and healthy for retail.
Yeah, I'd consider that quite healthy. I mean, you can do, again, volume, there's a trade-off, right? Like you might do 20%, but you're going to turn millions of units, right? Like you gotta kind of look at your total cash reward as well as your per unit and decide what makes sense for you. Not every category is perfect, but speaking very broadly, 30% contribution margin, you're generally going to be healthy.
Right. And you make a great point, right? Like if this is a multi-million-dollar deal, I might be willing to take some smaller margins because, I can get it done, get the money in 90 days. It's a big sale.
Yeah. Plus the marketing reward of like, if you're at every Walmart, right?
That makes a ton of sense. So, we've hit on a lot, right? Like why do retail, basically like what it means to sell in, sell through, how to get a good sales rep, what type of retail to go after, understanding the P&L. Okay, so now let's say I actually got a deal. I know my P&L. I did all that. What happens next? Working with let's say, are there requirements for shipping in? Like Amazon has specific requirements for shipping into them. I've got to go to my 3PL and train them up. What do you know about, how does that work?
Step one is make sure you can get your product to the store. We'll talk about making sure people buy the product at the store in a minute. We kind of already touched on that earlier, but yeah, you have to fulfill. It is much like doing Amazon FBA. There's a bunch of minutia and a bunch of little rules, and if you master them, it's an asset to you. And if you're lazy about them or uncertain, you have all these hidden costs. So whenever you work with a large retailer, and the bigger they are, the more complex they are, and the more tight the rules are. You will agree to all these terms of I will ship this much with this much notice on this dates, and my boxes will say this, and I will put these stickers on this parts of the box, and there'll be this much compliance and no risk, and my stuff won't melt or isn't fragile or tip over or whatever. My inner cartons will be this big, my outer will be this big, and you must make sure your 3PL or your own warehouse executes that. So the best way to do it with a 3PL is find one who services retailers already. Ideally your specific retailers. If they've worked with Walmart a ton, they're going to be an asset to you. They're going to help teach you how to deal with Walmart. If you're taking your Shopify dropship 3PL, just don't do those. Those guys always promise they can, and they generally are terrible at it, and it will cost you a lot of money. So find someone that already does retail, or at least does a lot of bulk, pallet, less than truckload type shipping, because they'll, even if they're not perfect, even if they haven't done your retailer specifically or have limited retail experience, they tend to be better suited than your online drop shippers. So avoid the drop shippers, even if they're over promising. So you want to make sure you have a good SLA with your 3PL. Usually 3 business day turnaround. Orders to out the door is standard. Go for 2 if you can get it. You have to make sure they have a stake in your success, right? So you'll have to codify it in the contract, but if they make a mistake and you get a chargeback, they must pay for it. You have to make them hurt, right? If you gave them the instructions correctly and they did not follow the instructions, and Walmart sends you a $600 fine because the box had the wrong sticker on it, your 3PL is on the hook for that $600 fine. Now, if you sent them the wrong instructions, that's on you, obviously, but make sure they are accountable for chargebacks that are their fault. Make sure you can understand their capacity. Can they do enough orders per day? How many orders per day are you going to get? If you're doing one retailer, you might get one huge order every 2 weeks, and they need to make sure they have that capacity on this every other Monday to put that order together and get it out on the floor. So try to map it out with them, like what's it going to look like in terms of volume, and then data integration systems. Like, do they integrate with your software you use, your ERP or your inventory management or whatever? That's going to make everything easier. Sending emails and PDFs and spreadsheets, you will get buried in that stuff. And make sure they have the capacity. Give yourself a reasonable out, because there are bad 3PLs, and if you get stuck with them, sometimes you're in that like 240-day exit clause, and you're just hating life while you try to get out of it. So go for the quickest termination you can. And yeah, those are kind of the rules of thumb.
That doesn't surprise me. A lot of that is good principles for just any 3PL, and a good relationship to have with your 3PL. So now we've got in store, we're pumping it out with our 3PL. I think sort of the last question, and one that references what you mentioned earlier, was sell through merchandising, right? How do I make sure that I sell through, that I crush it on shelf? So, we're an Amazon and TikTok agency, so we've studied how to sell well online, like what products need to look like, what the images need to look like, what your videos, your copy, all that good stuff. So I understand there's a mastery of that on the digital shelf, but how does that work on the physical shelf? It feels like you're far more limited, right? All you've got is your product packaging. Maybe you got an end cap that you can get a banner on, but tell me how you succeed on that in a very tough, small amount of space to catch people's attention.
You have the same exact principles. What's a principle that makes you stand out on TikTok? Standing out, or what makes you succeed? Standing out, being different, catching the eye, catching attention. It's the same fundamentals, and you will do most of the work for this before you ever get to the shelf. This is where working with mom and pops or smaller mass retailers is a great place to test, because ultimately your packaging is your number one asset of how you market yourself on the shelf. So what's unique about your brand? What's unique about who you target? Things like that. I mean, think of brands that kind of have disrupted industries. Think of Dude Wipes. It says Dude Wipes on there, right? They put their name right on the packaging, so these are for dudes. A great Thrasio brand we had was called Angry Orange, Pet Odor Eliminator. Every single product in pet odor was a white bottle. We had an orange bottle. After 2 years, there was 20 other orange bottles, because we just caught the eye. And now we were orange scented. It made perfect sense. We didn't just make it orange for no reason, but that we shot off because we were disruptive in the category. So it's not always that easy, but sometimes it is that easy. Sometimes everybody on the shelf looks one way. Everybody's got a white box. You make a bright pink one, right?
Can I pause you on that one? That's like a masterful case study. That bright orange, I remember seeing that, and we talked about it and evaluated it internally, and we're like, this is crazy. Like how drastically different and eye-catching it was, and it was just a big bold color with big bold logos.
Yeah, and we'll probably get to a world where everyone has a big bold color, so nothing stands out. So having the blandest packaging will make you stand out at some point. Who knows? We'll go in a giant loop, but um, anything to be different. Even if everyone is like in a square box, you make yours a round box. I mean, again, these are differentiation to catch the eye, because what you're trying to do is you have someone who's walking down the shelf, they're scanning broadly, they're tired, they have headphones in, maybe their eyesight's not the best. Like, how do you stop their eye and make them pick up your product? So you want to invest a lot early in packaging. Like, you cannot over invest in having good packaging. That's number one. Number two is like, okay, once they've picked up the packaging, what is the value? And goes all the way back to that research. Like, don't go sell to Walmart if Walmart really wants you, but you don't know what makes you different there. Like, if you're just another $10 product that does all the same things, even if Walmart wants you, you better have a crazy strong brand to succeed. Try to go where you found those gaps and the differentiation that you found of your product versus what's on the shelf. Try to highlight that in your packaging and kind of in your placement. Like, you have a different price point, you have a different feature, you have a different add-on to the automatic car brush you sell or whatever. Your positioning will succeed if you are differentiated and you're offering the customer something they can't get somewhere else after you've caught their eye with your packaging and they pick you up. And then the last one is the broadest and most esoteric part, which is marketing, right? That can be marketing through your own efforts, top of funnel, influencers, performance marketing, direct email, things like that. Hey, we're launching in the store. Hey, exclusive to Home Depot, whatever. Using their proprietary stuff. Walmart has an app, Target has an app, Depot has an app. You can promote on those apps while people are in the stores. You can do promotional installs where you just do a sidekick or an end cap or a quarter pallet, and you build a little corrugate thing, and it's like a built-in little mini billboard. You want to take advantage of those because those will generally make you money. The buyers will like you for doing them, and you'll learn about what's effective for your product. So maybe you do a seasonal additional product set that's an end cap or a hanging on the shelf or something, and you try some new copy and it crushes it. Great, maybe you put that copy on your permanent signage or on your packaging. So use the marketing to learn and iterate and try to bake that into your your packaging and your branding and your website and things like that as you go. But it's all under the family of merchandising. And where you are in the store matters too. This is another piece. So you might make sense as, like, let's say a cleaning product, a little handheld spray. You might make sense in cleaning, but you might make more sense in the impulse section, right? Because maybe people grab your cleaning thing because it's great for the car. So maybe you don't want to be an automotive, even though you're for the car, you're better in impulse. So that goes all the way back to the research thing, but keep in mind there can be multiple categories you can fit in. And sometimes you'll be just another product in one category, but you'll stand out great in another category.
On that note, how much, I'm assuming category or placement is part of the negotiation process? Because I know I've been in like Whole Foods, and the other day I was just in Whole Foods or whatever. I was looking for a specific product in mind, and it was bottom shelf. And I thought about it. I was like, man, I walk by, I never look down that far. That's dead space to me. So obviously they didn't want to be there, I would guess. So it's like, how can you negotiate best positioning or, like you said, a unique positioning?
Yeah, there can be a lot of variables. They could be getting cycled out, which is why they're at the bottom. They could have already been in there and they're kind of losing. Generally, if you're getting a test, they'll put you in a premium position or at least a decent position to prove yourself. And then your kind of performance there will dictate where you go. But yeah, you want to try to get creative. You want to ask the buyers what kind of promotional stuff they have, because the buyers are category specific. And so they're going to worry about their category. You can't really negotiate with um, the crackers buyer at Whole Foods to put you in the drinks section, right? You kind of have to negotiate in the world of crackers. But sometimes they'll work complementary with promotional or impulse buyers. Sometimes they say you're not right for my category, but let me put you in an adjacent one because you have a tweener product. But yeah, you're always haggling, so you don't get what you don't ask for. So if you want to be middle of shelf and you want to understand how you get to middle of shelf, ask the buyer.
So at the end of the day, like everything's in negotiation, but in general, they're going to want to see you succeed. So they're not just going to typically offer you a shitty placement day one. They want to give you a fair shake too.
Yeah, there's kind of no point in them doing that. So yeah, everything's negotiation, but your leverage is sell through.
Well, this is awesome, dude. At the end of the day, we started with sell through and we ended with sell through, right? Like, I think if there's one big takeaway, it's like, okay, it's going to take me years to get, maybe not years, but a long time, a year to get in store. But as part of my process of building up to that, I need to be ensuring that once I do, that I go flying off the shelf because that's what's going to make that investment worth it.
Yeah, let me give you a note on timing. Um, for mom and pops, you could start today. You could be on the shelf tomorrow if you can send them a product. Granted, you're only going to get like a couple $100 per order. But if you just want to try out retail, turn on mom and pop right away and just kind of wing it. You'll be okay. You're not going to get overwhelmed with. If you start getting overwhelmed with sales, great. You've struck oil. Now build some systems. Um, yeah, for the big ones, try to cover as much ground. If you're ready to go, try to cover as much ground as you possibly can. Get reps. Go after, if you're like, I really want these 3 retailers, go after 10 retailers because you can't control their timing. The 3 retailers might be a perfect fit for you, but they simply don't have a window to add a new product, or they're doing a buyer changeover and they're not, taking new calls right now. There can be a lot of different reasons. You can't control timing. You can only increase your amount of at bats, right? So if you have a chance once every 4 years with any given retailer, the more retailers you're talking to, the more likely your opportunity window comes up. So just put more bets on the table. Don't wait around for the perfect retailer and only try to go after 2, because it'll take you 3 or 4 years, even if you have the perfect product and the perfect pitch. But if you go after enough of them, you're very likely, as long as you have a product market fit, you're very likely to get placement within a year.
Right. Makes perfect sense. Same thing for us as an agency going for brands. I've got my dream list, right? But it's got to be a pretty big list because even if they love us, it might not be the right time. Well, dude, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. This was like one of the biggest value impacts I've ever seen. I feel like if people were listening in from start to finish, they have a great idea of the challenges to going into retail, but also how to solve those challenges and the value that they can get from doing so. So thank you, dude. This was really informative. For people that want your help doing this, tell us quickly, like, how do you help people and where do they find you?
Yeah, so I work as a consultant for retail go-to-market. I have a company called Crossover Strategies. Our website's crossstratinc.com. I offer, free hour consultations for anyone that wants to talk. I'm always happy to chat about retail and help brands understand if they're viable or not. And if they need help and want to go to retail, I offer a variety of services, usually like fractional VP of sales and marketing, project-based market research, building CRMs, things like that. So me and the team, we just help you get ready for retail, essentially. It can be extremely hands-on. We do it all for you, or it can be sort of guidance, strategic, and project-based. But yeah, anyone who wants to talk retail, I'll always give them some time.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Michael. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to include links, those links that you mentioned out below on our video, wherever you're watching this. So thanks for tuning in. Reach out to Michael and stick around for next week.